my 6. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Homesteading Off the Grid, the most awesomest homesteading channel on the entire planet that has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with homesteading. So you'll have to forgive me, Karen, for being shirtless. I know that triggers a lot of folks. When I was in the Philippines all winter, I did a lot of reels for Fakebook. I didn't really make very many videos for this channel, but I did reels daily because it's more profitable, or it was at that time. And I never had a shirt on because it was like 94 degrees every day, humid as could be. And man, there were all these Karens losing their minds. That and my hair. Everybody's screaming about getting a haircut. So no, I didn't get it cut. It's in a ponytail. But I must not show my nipples because I did that in a video a couple of summers ago here on YouTube, and it got unmonetized because I guess I'm too sexy for YouTube. So watch behind me. That's what Get My 6 means, because we have had some odd things show up here. You never know who or what you may or may not see in the background. I didn't even bring my tripod up here, so I'm like, I'm using my hands. So if we hear anything crazy back there, I'll be able to pan around. I'm not going to talk for long because I really wasn't planning on even making a video this evening. I know I should because it's been a few days since my last one, but it is so beautiful up here and it is so peaceful. But, excuse me. I don't know. I can't just stop working entirely just yet. I almost could. I could if I wanted to, but I don't want to. So I'm going to make a video. And since I'm not wearing a shirt, I mentioned Karen's, I'm going to tell you something really mean I did to a Karen today. She started it, kind of, sort of. But just a couple of Karens were all up in my Shiz-nit, man, because I was going fishing with my wife and our son and one of his friends that spent the night with him. It's crazy. But somebody just commented just a few minutes before I started making this video about my artwork. I showed you some of my drawings in the last video, and she said she was finding it hard to believe that I'm a beginner because they were so good. Thank you so much for that compliment. And then she said something to the effect of, but how can you not find inspiration in your environment, in your beautiful environment? And I actually replied to her and said, yeah, I'm actually sitting in my beautiful environment right now, not making a video because it's just so relaxing to sit in this environment. So I'm going to share with you a couple of things I've noticed here in my environment. It excites me. It really turns me on to see this stuff. I'm going to talk about what I did to Karen. So I can't zoom with the phone recording this way, but I think you'll be able to see what I want to point out to you. Well, here's a couple right here. This is really, really neat. You see the white flowers on these trees? These are the blossoms of a locust tree. They come out this time of year. And yeah, we had a big giant limb drop off of that big oak back there. I got to clear that up. Haven't gotten to that just yet. Fell off just before we went to the Philippines, and I wanted the leaves to dry, make the job easier, but I'll be getting around to it. But look at this locust tree. It's got to be 25 to 30 feet high. And again, mind you, all of this was a hayfield when we bought this almost 8 years ago. That's the Bigfoot Sasquatch ground observation blind right there. So I want to show you these blossoms. I'm going to show you a couple other things too, because I just sit up here and stare at this stuff, and it's like, man, I gotta make a video. Or sometimes it's hard to even draw because I want to look at this stuff, not the paper. But I've learned something about trees. Let me tell you, you can read textbooks and you can go to school, and I have, a bachelor's degree. I've been to college, and I'm not knocking education. But what I've found is the best way to truly learn about stuff and with anything is through experience. So, that was just leaves. I thought there was a snake. I'm wearing flip-flops. I want to show you this on this tree. You see this? So, I grew up in West by God, Virginia, and I was a hunter. Back then, I was always in the woods, and I would see trees like this. This tree's about 8 years old. It started coming up, one of our first trees here, and now it's 30 feet high. Here on the part that we're letting reforest. It's about 3 acres back here that we're letting reforest. So anyway, I always wondered what caused that. What makes a tree do this? And I now know because I've seen it so many times. What happened was when that tree was a sapling, It was about 1.5 feet, 2 feet high. Its first year coming up. A male deer, a buck, just shredded that thing with his antlers. I can't remember if it was to remove the velvet, which they'll do in like September, in the mid to late September, or if it was to mark his territory in the fall, during the rut, when they go into rut, their mating season for deer. But either way, he just shredded that tree. Now, locust trees are like weeds. They're very resilient. And so, of course, it lived and it came back. And it's now the tallest tree back here, doing beautifully. And so what that was that I showed you on the side of that tree, that's a scar from where the deer antlered that thing 8 years ago. And it's neat because I've got other trees that I know the deer have gotten to. And now the ones that survived now 6 years, 8 years later, it's the same thing. So I always wondered, there's a house way down there. It's like a quarter of a mile away. The road's way, way down there, down the trail. Oh, more blossoms. I want to show you this. These smaller white blossoms, that's from a wild black cherry tree. Then, of course, there's some more locust blossoms. But check this out. This is a pine tree. This was the first pine tree that we got on our property when we started reforesting the hay field, and it was in a meadow. Now it's like a young forest. And I got so excited about the pine tree. But I was sitting there today, and I can now count 6 pine trees just within sight right here in about a 50-yard by 50-yard patch of new forest. And then let's see if we got some this year. I'll show you. This was our first pine tree to ever actually grow pine cones. See, there's pine cones on this tree. And I mean, that just really excites us to be able to watch from scratch just a field, to watch it turn to meadow, then to watch that meadow become a young forest. And I literally, in one of my most favoriteest things to do is just sitting here and watching the trees grow and the different flowers bloom. These locust blossoms have only been out for 2 days. No, 3 days. I mowed the grass 4 days ago, went around through here. They weren't here. Then the next morning they were out. Here's where we sleigh ride in the winter when we actually get snow, and when we're actually here in the winter. So, but anyway, what did I do to Karen? Oh, I'm such a bad guy. Sometimes I just get in a mood, right? Like a man brat. And so we go fishing. And again, I'm dealing with this, and I'm like, why did we even go anywhere to go fishing? One of my son's friends, a kid on my football team that I coach, ended up spending the night with us last night. So he came over, spent yesterday, last night, and we went fishing today. But we went fishing in our pond yesterday, and we caught like 20 fish. Went fishing today. I caught one little bluegill. My wife caught a little bluegill, and the boys didn't catch anything. So anyway, let's see who or what might or might not show up back here. So we get out of the truck, and we go to this place. It's like, I'm not going to tell you specifically where it was because it's one of my best catfishing holes. It's the one there on Easter Sunday. I caught a 25-pound blue cat. I put the video of that on this channel. If you missed it, go watch. So we get out of the truck. We have our fishing poles, and we all have a chair, like this folding chair I'm sitting in, and like a bag of snacks and some water. We start walking down this trail. It's like a place where there's trails, and they have strict rules, and we know the rules, and we abide by the rules. Basically, it's like, hey, don't take anything from here. No plant life, no animal life. You're not allowed to hunt or even fish there, and we were not fishing there. You'll understand here in a minute. So what it is there's a certain place on a public reservoir that does allow fishing, that has fisher people all over it daily, almost year-round. I know the best spot on this reservoir, and the easiest way to access it is by going onto this trail system, going down a certain trail about half a mile, and then cutting through government-owned county land that the reservoir was dammed up and built on, and fishing from the bank on the land that is owned by the county for purposes of the reservoir, not this little nature trail club, right? And there's no rules against walking on their trails with a fishing pole. You're just not allowed to use it, right? You can't access this place by foot any other way. We've accessed it other ways with our kayaks and with the canoe we used to have. But on foot, this is the way to go. And we were with a kid. We only had 3 kayaks, and there were 4 of us, and we wanted to take this kid to this spot, right? Our son's friend, one of my athletes. So we get out of the truck, we got our stuff, we're walking through there, and this Karen comes running over to us, just saying, "You can't fish here. You cannot fish here. There is absolutely no fishing here whatsoever." I said, "We're not fishing here." She says, "Well, why do you have fishing poles?" I said, "Because we're going fishing." She said, "You can't fish here. You just said you're not fishing here." I said, "We're not." And she's just looking at me like, listen, and I don't owe anybody any explanation. If I'm not breaking any laws, and she was not a member of law enforcement, I didn't owe her any explanation, but just to so she wouldn't completely lose her crap and ask to speak with my manager, I said, "We're fishing on the reservoir. We know a really good spot, and the easiest and the only way to get there on foot is by walking down this trail and then going over onto the county-owned property that is the bank of the reservoir." She's like, oh, okay. And then she just turns around and walks off. So then we go a little bit further, and we get accosted by another Karen. We're walking through this field, getting ready to hit this trail, and I guess it turns out they were having a plant sale there, selling native plants, these plant people, a plant club. So she comes running over at us, and so she assumed because we had chairs, we were going out in that field to set up for a picnic, and she starts going off on us. And both these Karens are boomers, they're 70-ish. She's like, "You can't just come up and sit your chairs up out here. We're having a plant sale today. You can't just come out and set up out here." I said, "We're not. We're going fishing." And I raised my fishing pole up, and she just turned around and walked off. I said to my beautiful bride dearly, aka Giggly Girl, and I like to call her that because that triggers some people and they lose their crap over that too. I'm like, "Why is everybody getting all up in my Shiz-nit today? Because I'm going fishing. This doesn't make any sense." So we fished for an hour and a half, went back, and again, I'm sitting there thinking, gosh, I can fish on my own property because I have a pond full of bluegills, bass, largemouth, crappie, and catfish, dozens of catfish in there, and I know there's at least one that's over 30 inches long, but we enjoy feeding them, kind of view them as pets, so we just don't do it. But I'm like, I don't have to put up this crap, man. I should put up a sign. I should replace one of my no trespassing signs with a sign that says "No Karens Allowed." We don't have any that come up in here anyway. So anyway, we're going back through, and all these people have their plants set up and stuff. And I shouldn't have done it, but I saw that one of the Karens, and I go over and I'm looking at her plants, and I said, "Oh, they're so beautiful." And she says, "Aren't they?" And I said, "Yeah, but God, I just hate to see them in pots." And she was like, "Huh?" I'm like, plants belong in the wild. It just breaks my heart to see them in pots. So then she doesn't know what to say. And of course, I'm being a man brat. And then so I'm looking at one, and she mentions that it's edible. And I said, "No, I do not eat plants." She's like, "What? You don't eat plants?" I said, "No, never." And she's like, "What about vegetables?" I said, "Vegetables or plants, I don't eat them." She's like, "Why don't you eat plants?" I said, "Because they're so cute, especially when they're young." I said, "Look at this little cutie, all caged up in its pot. How could I possibly make eye contact with this plant and then at some later date eat it? That is inhumane, and I can't do that." And she just kind of stared at me maybe wondering if my mother had any children that lived. And then we left, and of course, my beautiful bride dearly, aka Giggly Girl, is doing what she does best, giggling her backside off on the way to the truck. Whatever, man. Gosh, can't a family and one of their friends just go fishing without people harassing them? Whatever. I told my wife, and listen, this is just how it is. This is from having an understanding of people and human interactions. I said, there is a high probability in my mind that those women were public school teachers. And she says, "Why?" And I said, "Well, because they were just all about rules and what you can and can't do." I mean, it's like they just had public school teachers stamped on their head, And listen, if you're a teacher, I don't mean to offend you by that, but listen, we all know we all take our work home with us. Sometimes we take it out there into our personal. I know a grade school teacher, I mean, newer years ago, who has been teaching second grade for like decades. She talks like she's 7 years old. And I'm like, oh my God, this woman, she's older than me. And it's like, does she have any like not creepy and weird relationships with adults? I mean, how can you go through life being 60-ish and talking like you're 7? You know what I mean? So anyway, I want to show you these blossoms again. I got to end with this after talking about those Karens. But I don't got any Karens out here, man. I don't got nobody getting up in my Shiz-nit out here while I'm just watching my trees grow. Enjoying the beautiful blossoms, trying not to show my nipples on social media. You know, it's funny, I got a community guideline warning. It wasn't a strike, but it was a warning on something I posted on Fakebook about 2 weeks ago. It said, it was on our page, Sick Twisted Humor, which is up to like 823,000 followers now. Thank you if you're among those people. It said, karma takes too long. I'd rather just smack you now. Well, they removed that post and said it was because it violated their policy in regard to violence or the inciting of violence or whatever. I'm like, yeah, whatever. But then just before making this video, you know, I got my cell phone out. I pulled up Fakebook and to check the page, make sure everything that I had scheduled here for the last few hours is posting, and it is. And, you know, they serve you stuff. There's always these reels. I was served a reel of, you know, they have professional slapping now. People will stand there. There's a men's division and a women's division. They will stand there at a table and hold on to things like in arm wrestling, and they take turns slapping each other as hard as they can. And basically, the winner is the one who is willing to continue after being slapped. So if you slap somebody, and if you knock them out, it's over. But if they come to, they get back up. They can slap you back, or you can say no. You can forfeit, or you can take their slap. And it just goes back and forth until somebody forfeits. But I got a reel of this. So somehow, me saying karma takes too long, I'd rather just smack you now, is a violation of their community standards. But professional smacking videos of this, because it showed this one woman literally knock this other woman into next month, and that's what it was called, getting slapped into next month. But that's okay. I don't get it. Also, true story, honest story, I don't look up sexy Asian women on Fakebook. I'm always getting served those reels, and it's often made me wonder, how is it they somehow know I'm in a relationship with a beautiful, sexy Asian woman, a Filipino woman I've been with for 14 years. Well, get this. I know for a fact they do. I think they listen, because I never look up fishing reels. I've never served any reels on fishing, but all day yesterday we were talking about going fishing today while we were fishing on our property. Then we did go fishing today, and after we got home and I pulled up Facebook, all the reels I was being served had to do with fishing. People catching fish, big fish, the ones that got away. So I don't know what this video is about. It's about Karens. It's about AI. It's not just Google listening to everybody all the time now. It's Fakebook. There's no such thing as privacy. Of course, we've known that. That's been the case for years. But I guess it's not just our government. And, you know, here's what's interesting. I'm going to end with this. Make sure we don't see him, her, it, or they back there. Right? And I coined that. Like the pronouns thing is like a big thing now. I was doing the pronoun things before the pronoun things was cool. How awesome is that? And if you didn't know, Bigfoot Sasquatch is now referred to as Bigfoot Sasquatch in the entire cryptid community. It used to be either or, and I used to trigger people and make them go bat crap crazy by calling them both. Now everybody calls them both. Man, you know how challenging it is being a pop culture icon, especially when it's by accident. You're just out here making goofy videos in your backyard, and like a whole society is now following what you do because you did it. It's crazy. What was my point? I don't know. Oh yeah, it used to be only the government listened to us, and we all got up in arms over that. They have no right to know everything about my private life. Social media figured out how to do it because we just give it to them. We put a lot of CIA ops and FBI ops out of business, man. All they got to do is check our Facebook pages. Seriously, I saw a police officer on the campus of on the grounds of the University of Virginia last year. Listen, it's not a campus, or it's the grounds. And he had a canine, and he had his phone out. He was scrolling on his phone. I said, "What are you doing? Shopping for criminals, escapees, and all that?" And he kind of looked at me like, what are you talking about? I said, seriously, I mean, somebody breaks out of prison, you don't have to go find them anymore. You just go to their Facebook page, because they'll post sitting here having a coffee at Starbucks because I just broke out that place, brah. And the guy laughed and said that he actually personally picked up a wanted person who knew he was wanted, who knew he had warrants out for him, because he was posting everywhere he was going and everything he was doing on Facebook. And one day the cop noticed that the guy was at a location that wasn't too far from him, so he went and got him. Man, you can't fix stupid. All right. Hope you guys got something out of this. Hope you saw him, her, it, or they. If you did, timestamp it so others can go back and see it as well. Thank you for inspiring me to make a video, lady who talked about my inspirational environment. I appreciate you and everybody else watching. See y'all for more next time.